Just breaking. Special Counsel Jack Smith moves to dismiss election interference case against Trump. He's dumping the J6 case.
But
he has asked the court for time to assess the unprecedented circumstances of pending criminal cases against the incoming president. He wants the case dismissed without prejudice because he's a douchebag, because he wants the ability to bring it again after Trump leaves office. And now they're pointing out in the media, that this actually leaves open the possibility that Trump could pardon himself to foreclose the possibility of legal jeopardy in the future. Please do it. Do it, Donald Trump. The country does not want to see this nonsense go on. This is ridiculous. Jack Smith has made a fool out of himself.
If there's any way to prove that these cases seem to be politically motivated to stop Trump from becoming president again, when he's elected and they all just go, we tried, close the case, that's a pretty good indicator that they didn't really mean what they said and all of this stuff. And, I'm not a fan of what happened on January 6th, but the insurrection thing, the 14th Amendment, it was never charged with this. We can argue about the legality of the fake electors, but really, if he really did commit these crimes against the country and democracy, and you just fold shop when he wins, it's kind of like the end of democracy Hitler talk. We called him Hitler. It was going to be the end of democracy. And then he wins. And now it's like, we'll work with him. Let's go have lunch with him. The way, and this was another thing about talking about getting back to normal. Joe Biden's Justice Department, led by Merrick Garland, who was Obama's Supreme Court nominee, who never sat on the court because of Donald Trump. Of course, these were weaponized investigations, and it had never been done in the history of our country. And if you recall, back when Obama was elected, they asked Obama, are you going to go after Cheney and Wolfowitz for Abu Ghraib and war crimes? And he just said, no, we're going to move forward because it's what's best for the country. When they asked Trump about Hillary Clinton in 2016, he kind of did I was just shitting. I'm not going to charge. I'm not going to lock her up, whatever. And then in 2020, here's Joe Biden going, we're going to investigate him and we're going to charge him with crimes. And again, this was one of these things.
Not just J6.
And you opened the door for
this.
Which
really outraged them. But
Alvin Bragg,
Stormy Daniels.
Danny
But
Willis.
Speaking of January 6th.
Everything.
This is in the news just this week, guys, that the cop who fatally shot Ashli Babbitt, 36 years old, at the J6 riot, who's been absolutely made a hero of by the left. Instead of asking serious questions about whether she was doing something that deserved her being shot on Capitol Hill. Did they see a weapon? Was there something? Granted, she was trying to break through a door. I get it. So were a lot of other people. What was she doing that suggested she was an imminent threat, that she was out to do harm? What we've learned now, thanks to the House Administration Committee's Subcommittee on Oversight, which is GOP-led, they released a letter last week showing that this cop, Captain Michael Byrd, 56, has a long disciplinary record that includes leaving his loaded handgun in a public bathroom in the Capitol Visitor Center, improperly firing his gun at a car near his home while off duty, and abusing a Maryland cop who tried to stop him from entering a high school football field, again, while off duty. Then they said that there are at least 3 entries in his internal affairs record that are missing, according to the chairman of the committee. This is disturbing, and the media will never cover the shooting death of Ashli Babbitt fairly, Stu, because she was there on J6. She was inside the Capitol, and she was trying to push her way in along with some other angry rioters. However, you don't get the death penalty for that. And that's what this cop unleashed on her. And it appears to have had some history of being negligent with respect to his duties and his firearm.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating in that every other shooting by a police officer of someone that I can ever remember got the exact, opposite treatment by the media. They always take the side of the person who was shot, whether it was legitimate or not. I mean, look, I don't think it was the right, we don't want to be inside of a building like that and pushing forward when you see an officer there, probably not a good idea to do what she did. But as you point out, we would hope that it could be handled in literally any other way. And all of these prosecutions, all of these storytelling, all the storytelling by the media has gone for one purpose, which was to keep Donald Trump out of the job he's about to enter. And they tried really hard on this. Coming out now and saying, well, we're going to drop these investigations, we're dropping these cases, is like coming out after the Super Bowl and going to the press conference after and saying, well, you know what? Well, we forfeit. Well, sorry, you've already lost. Like, their whole goal was to try to get a jury to look at these cases, take them seriously, and punish Donald Trump. And in a way, they got it. They got their case heard. They got a jury, not of 12 people, but of 150 million people who came out a few weeks ago and said, you know what? We saw all this evidence. We don't buy it. That's the end of the day. I mean, I think if people really believe that Donald Trump had tried to overthrow democracy and destroy the country, and they believe those charges, he probably wouldn't have won, even with the terrible record of Biden and Harris. At the end of the day, they didn't believe it. And this is infuriating to the left that put all their eggs in this basket and watched each one of them crack.
You look back, Jonathan Turley, by the way, Just the News broke the story that I just brought you about Ashli Babbitt and this cop who shot her. But you look at this story, Jonathan Turley actually did a good long piece on his blog, jonathanturley.org, about it, Steve. And he was saying that liberal pundits often refer to the number of officers who died that day. And the truth is not a single officer died that day on January. Not one. The only person to die that day was Ashli Babbitt, who was shot by what appears to have been a trigger-happy cop with a long history of disciplinary action against him. I mean, why isn't this everywhere? This guy appears to have been a serious problem long before he ever saw Ashli Babbitt. And he points out how the media lionized him and portrayed the killing of Babbitt as clearly justified, which is in sharp contrast to the approach the media has taken in other shootings by law enforcement. An unjustified killing by police on that day was inconsistent with the public narrative pushed by the pundits and the press. And the truth is that President Trump had offered 10,000 National Guardsmen, and it was rejected. Pelosi didn't want it. They didn't want to make it look worse than it was, and they were worried that somehow Trump might use these troops in some way that they might find objectionable. And Ashli Babbitt, who was wrong in her actions, but Turley continues, but the penalty for breaking a window and unauthorized entry is not death in this country. They won't investigate this guy. They did already and cleared him of charges. It's a different narrative about what happened that day that you won't hear on these so-called truth-loving media outlets like MSNBC, Stephen.
Yeah, I do think that it should be part of the story of this, as if, did you have a guy who was feeling a little bit more gung-ho than he should have? I think I'm harder on Ashli Babbitt than a lot of people on the political right. I think that if you're somebody who breaks into the Capitol building, or if you jump the White House fence, for example, at that point, you're playing with your life. And that doesn't mean that she deserved to die or anything like that. But
many of these folks were let in. Yeah, I don't defend January 6th.
And that's what I mean. And that's what I mean. There's a lot of this where this is one of the problems with, the charges around January 6th is there was clearly people that should have been charged with crimes. And then you get kind of like the MAGA grandma going through thinking she's on a tour. And to
getting waved in by cops. For those of us holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale. Doesn't it feel like that? Work can finally be done on the major issues this country is facing, and it will be. One of the most significant, our national debt. The fact is our nation is broke, and that debt is a house of cards that can't be quickly dismantled. So the strategy remains the same. You might want to diversify your savings. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control and out of our president's control, so it can be really important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. And the best news is it doesn't cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Text MK to 989898 now to get your free info kit. Plus, right now through Black Friday, you're going to receive a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.